So at this point, what we'll try to do is we'll align the learning activity sheets that we will create to the most essential learning competencies. So the DepEd has released a matrix of the MELCs, or the most essential learning competencies. And our goal is when we'll do our learning activity sheets, they are related. So I think the 3 questions that you will see will help us in crafting the learning activity sheets that we need in relation to the MELCs. So the first question is this. So what are the most important lessons that students have to learn in the subject you are teaching? What LAS can I prepare to achieve the required competencies? So as a teacher, it is very important that you identify the important lessons that the student needs to learn in your subject, so that you will also know what kind of LAS you will prepare so that you can achieve the required competencies. The next one is, if it is not possible to cover all competencies, how could different topics be integrated or coordinated? What concepts can be reviewed in the subject I am teaching? So because of the very limited time that we have, one thing that we can also do is think of ways on how we can integrate our lessons to another subject. So for example, I'm teaching science, physics, and when I teach physics, it involves a lot of problem solving. And by doing a lot of problem solving, the mathematical skills of our students are also enhanced and developed. So these are things that I can also have even in my science subject, so that our students are able to reach or achieve the required competency. And lastly, what concepts and skills should be mastered so that students can do well in the next level? So these are just the 3 questions that can guide us when we are creating our learning activity sheets, so that they can be aligned to the most essential learning competencies, or MELCs. So here is some samples of matrices wherein we will see how the competencies are aligned to the different learning activity sheets. So for example, for English, for the first quarter, we can have these 3 most essential learning competencies. And again, because these competencies are very broad, this can be broken down into several learning activity sheets. Again, I want to emphasize this, wherein a complex task, let's say in a very broad competency, can be broken down into several small steps. So for example, for the first competency, let's say expresses permission, obligation, and prohibition using modals, this can be translated into 6 learning activity sheets, and so on. So aside from English, we have Araling Panlipunan, wherein you can also see here the different learning competencies, and in each competency, we can create several LAS. You notice in this matrix, similar to English, one learning competency can result to many learning activity sheets, because again, our goal is to make it more simple and basic for our students to learn the lesson even without teacher intervention. So aside from Araling Panlipunan, we have also a matrix for science, wherein the learning competencies can be divided into many LAS, and math. So I guess with these examples, what I want to emphasize again is the need for us to look very closely to what are the LAS we can produce, given that we have this required competency. And again, for us to reach that required competency, it is very important that we have several activities, small activities that students can answer on their own, so that they can reach the required competency. And based from our experience for doing the dynamic learning program for many years, we have shown that there are a lot of concepts and principles that students can learn independently, even without the aid of a teacher.
For updated details about CVIF DLP or CVIF Dynamic Learning Program, continuously follow us and visit CVIF DLP Facebook page, CVIF DLP discussion group, and DLP.ph.